Okay. It was a podcast I was listening to, and they were talking about. I guess somebody found a mouse. They live in New York. They're talking about finding rats or mice in their apartments. And one guy was telling a story where he's like, oh, like like the typical like traps or whatever. And one guy was talking. He's like, yeah, so like I trapped it in like the in between the broom and the dustpan. He's like, at the time I lived on the 17th floor, and so I just kind of chucked it out the window. He's like, I felt real bad because he was falling backwards like on Die Hard, just looking back at me the whole way down.
Uh,
The person was like, "Oh, next time you tell that story, this is like he was hanging on the balcony, he just slowly started flipping his fingers up." Like, no, bro, it's 70 floors up. And one of the other ones was like, or you could just go cliffhanger, like he had a little leather glove on him, and you're trying to hold up his hand, but the glove slips up, and then he slowly falls down, looking at you. He's like, "Yeah, I still think about it." And like, yeah, you wake up in the middle of the night, and it's like your wife's like, "Did you see the mouse again? Is that what happened?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm like 3 blocks from a PetSmart. I could have just taken him there." I'm like, can you imagine being also 17 floors down? Even if you looked down and no one was there, by the time, like, what if you're like walking out of like the building and just one mouse falls out of the sky? Like, you would never like stop thinking about that the rest of your life. You'd be in therapy. Like, yeah, and then just a mouse just fell and hit me in the head. I didn't know what to do. Hey, what's happening?
Welcome back to another episode of What's Wrong with These Kids. I'm CJ.
I'm Logan.
We're glad to have you with us. Before we jump into our topic of the day, I did receive a comment from a Rocky Dobson. That's our brother-in-law. And he said, this show needs a whole lot more Matt West. And I'm in agreement. I had a good time with Matt.
Yeah, we'll have to get him back on there more often.
I think so. And I was talking to Carrie. He was with us for like all these stories. Like any story we tell, he was there. So he'd be a good semi-permanent, if not permanent, addition to the show. I think he balances this out well too.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Probably a good chaperone or a shepherd, I would say that. Yeah,
Yes,
keep it
yeah.
going. Yeah, I have friends that know who he is just because he usually comes into every store that we have.
Yeah, yep. So we'll have to add him in, and he's also another one of those. What's wrong with these kids? One of the kids. So, so today we're talking about animals, and I'm not a fan, but Logan's a semi-fan of animals.
Yeah, I especially like it if my friends have the animals, and then I can just pet them and then leave, and then never have to deal with it. Like taking care of them, not good. That's why the only plant I have now is fake. Because I can't even keep plants alive. I'm barely keeping myself alive.
So on the opposite side of that coin, I've been having some pests in my yard that I've had to take care of. I've got these armadillos that dig holes underneath. No, but they dig holes underneath my slides for my kids' playground, and so they kind of like fall into those holes, and it's dangerous. And so I'm tired of it. So I've started eliminating them. And there was one that I caught in a trap a couple days ago, and Charlie shouted, "Kill it, Daddy, kill it!" And so I had to. So I was thinking we should tell animal stories. I'm setting traps like Granny used to say.
No, I was saying they are setting booby traps.
Oh, they're setting booby traps. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
our great underworld.
So our great grandmother used to have several gardens on her property, and armadillos would come and tear those gardens up. And she was a tough lady. She would trap them, then she would shoot them, and then she would stick them in a bucket of water to make sure they were actually dead. And if they came up for air, she'd shoot them again. So I'm doing the same thing.
Guantanamo Bay stuff right there.
Yes, I'm not sticking them in a bucket of water. I'm watching them and making sure they're dead. They're definitely dead. So, but we pulled together several stories of us growing up with animals. You heard Logan's story. You heard about the mouse there on the front end of the podcast. But let's kind of jump in. What are some animals you remember us having growing up, Logan? Let's start with one. What's one that you remember?
Well, we had hamsters. I think
Yes.
I had several hamsters because I mean, yeah, again, and I can't keep them alive or in their cages or whatever happens. I do remember I had two or three of them, and they were all named Logan Burrows Jr. Like, 'cause when one would go, I just replace it. And I remember thinking, like, well, they don't know that there was one before them, so it's not going to hurt their
You're
feelings.
put
It's not.
yeah,
You're
yeah.
not unless
You're
they're getting
expendable.
told from like from beyond the dead. If there's like a bunch of hamster ghosts talking to them, like, bro, I know how this story ends.
So I remember your hamsters. I remember you had one that you had like girls over and they were holding it over the balcony and it bit him and like they almost dropped him and you're like, don't drop my hamster over the balcony.
Are you sure it could have been Stephanie's friends?
Well, it was
Because
Stephanie's
at
friends,
the
but
age that I had,
you had a
hamsters, I don't
tendency.
think I had a lot of girls over.
No, but you had a tendency to hang out with Stephanie's friends.
Oh yeah,
So they were hanging out with you.
I was ahead of my
Um,
time.
so I also remember you had one that got its foot caught in the little hamster wheel, and
Yeah,
its foot swole up, and then like you had to like amputate the
I
leg.
think I didn't amputate the leg. Just so we're clear,
Yes, yes.
a veterinarian amputated it.
Which I don't know
Um,
why, but we would send our sick animals with Joan. Like she had a veterinary connection. I don't know,
oh,
but
for all we know, she was the one that was doing all the veterinary work.
well, all I know is that it didn't make it through the surgery. So that
Oh,
was
I was wondering why we didn't get a little peg leg for it, but I guess that explains it.
yeah,
Complications.
she said that he got out of the cage after the surgery and one of the dogs ate him. But I just think they're probably like, it's a hamster. We're not going to spend money amputating a leg off a hamster.
Put it in the field.
There you
Just
go.
let it be free. But both of those scenarios seem feasible.
Yep. Well, it's funny you mentioned that letting it in a field to go free. I had a gerbil. I didn't have very many pets,
Oh
but
yeah,
I had
we did that
gerbil.
too once.
Yep. I had a gerbil and it went blind. And I was like, well, I guess I'm going to set it free. And so I put it in the back field and it probably didn't go very far.
No, I'm sure like a bird got it real quick.
Either that or it just sat there until because it couldn't find food. You know, I mean, it
Or
was a
little bunny
domesticated animal.
foo-foo popped it on its head.
One or the
So-
other. One or the other. So yeah, so we had hamsters and we had gerbils in the same family. We mentioned the mice that would come to our house. You wanted to highlight a story we've told previously.
The field mice. And I think after that was when we kept thinking your room smelled like boy. That's what Mom said. You smell like a smelly boy. And which I just assumed it was you just had a bunch of dirty laundry you were putting off for like a couple of months.
No,
But
didn't
I think, but it could have been that too. That was masking the smell. But I think we eventually figured out from the following the smell or something that one had, I think, climbed in a speaker.
There's a whole family of them that had crawled in there and died.
And then I think it could have been they got zapped when we plugged it in or turned it on.
Could have been.
And so they were just in there. It was like a crime scene.
See, I remember that there was one that we caught alive that had gotten into one of these, like a box that we had, and so we were carrying it out the back door, and we were going to throw it over the fence, like into the field, and it got out and started running back up to the house, and I panicked and started trying to stomp on it to kill it, so it couldn't get back in the house.
That's gross. That's
I think I may have been barefoot. I don't know. I didn't get it.
Even worse.
And I remember you going, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm trying to kill it so it doesn't go back in the house." And you were always much more tender with animals than I were. Like you got mad if we did anything to them. You were Mr. Catch and Release. I was kill it, kill it, kill it. That was fine.
Well, also, give me some credit. I don't think crushing a tiny mouse with my bare feet and feeling the bones crunch was something I wanted to do.
I just didn't want it back in the house. When we caught it, it was out
We
of the
should have
house.
just got the hockey stick and knocked it over.
Yes. So talk about the hockey stick. Talk about that
So-
as one of your many tools to get rid of animals.
Well, one of them there was one of many snakes that got into like the garage because it was like a big storage thing with like more bicycles than there were people in the house for whatever reason.
Yes.
And there was a snake, and I think we were using it. I don't even know. I was telling somebody about this recently. Why we even had hockey sticks?
We
Because
each had hockey sticks because we got rollerblades and we were playing roller hockey.
that's what my theory was. I was like, oh yeah, we have rollerblades, but it's not like we'd ever played hockey or watched hockey
But
or
we had a desire to have sticks. That was, I think, probably it.
Yeah. So we were doing that. And then the other thing was maybe we saw it on Wayne's World.
True.
So we had the hockey stick, and so I had wrapped it up, and this is when around the time when I had the camcorder and we were recording a bunch of things that we thought would be funny, and so I handed to Stephanie, and I'm like, hey, you record this, and we're cracking this, you, me, and Dustin, and I think I like wrapped it around, like spun the stick, and it just goes all the way around it, and then went to go take it over the fence, and went to like almost like lacrosse throw it over, but since it was wrapped over, it just didn't go far and just smacked straight into the fence, and we just were cracking up, and we're trying to sweep it up, and it's coming after us, and it was like this whole like ridiculous thing of us trying to get rid of this snake, but it's three little boys, and we're thinking it's hilarious. And I come back, and I'm like, all right, Stephanie, give me the camera, let me see this. And apparently she was just holding it and didn't know that she was supposed to record the whole thing. And I was mad at her forever about that. I was like, you're no longer camper woman. She was like, oh, no, I don't know.
Yeah, so she didn't record the snake. You didn't get pictures of my engagement. We'll call it even. We'll call it even.
Oh, we should have just checked the security cameras and just like, can I get a copy of that?
Could have. So I remember that. I also remember using a piece of PVC pipe and a cord inside it so that you could loop it around and catch a snake around the head.
I'd seen it on shows.
Yeah,
that's how they grab it. I must have seen that on something because that's pretty much what they used for. I was semi-professional, except no one was paying me.
So let's move from small animals to dogs, because we've got several dogs that we've grown up with. I was remembering one story in particular, Matt G and our dog Flash. Remember Flash?
Mm-hmm.
So Matt G would kick our fence and get our dog freaking out. Like he would kick it over and over again. So the dog was like frothing at the mouth, angry, whatever. Then he would laugh, and he was so funny. And then one time he rested his hand on the fence, and Flash jumped up and bit his hand. And he he didn't do the Dustin spin around in a circle thing, but he did hold that hand. He ran all the way home. I remember shouting, "Wait, my mom's a nurse!" And like he ran all the way home. And,
I was waiting for him to be like, "Forget about it." And then when we're in the backyard someday, like Flash is just gonna come out with red eyes from underneath the deck. Like, I remember.
He wasn't paying attention. He bit him, and I remember telling Mom, and I think she was like, "Well, he like kick at the dog like all the time." I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Well, I guess that's kind of what you get." So. But I remember that. I remember.
Remember Alexander with the bomb in your pants?
Yes, we had a kid named Alexander who we would say you got a bomb in your pants, and he would freak out and like take his pants down.
No, he was in the back and he scared the dog, and I don't know why we said like you have a bomb in your pants, and we're like, oh, that's what the dog's going for, and he just like dropped it like little boys peeing at a urinal where it's like just all of it just straight down the ankles. And then we're like, well, now you're like way more vulnerable. I don't know what.
Yeah, and then the dog jumped up on him, and that was oh my goodness. I remember Olivia had a dog that was so mean we couldn't play in her backyard, but we would like jump from the fence to her monkey bars and like
it was like the beast on Sandlot.
Yes, it was exactly like the beast. It would growl at us and bite at us and anyways, I remember that being a pretty terrifying dog. I don't know why we thought that'd be fun. You know, I think one of us got stuck up there.
We like all parents. Survival thing. Oh yeah, that definitely happened. But I want to say it was Danny.
Oh, there's a good chance it was Danny. That does sound like Danny. And I think we probably would have left him there and like taken off. Like, see you.
Gone back to get parents and forgot what we went over there for again, and we're just like eating dinner. Like, I don't know where Danny is. It's getting dark though, right?
He's been missing for days. Oh, poor Danny. Poor Danny. So there were those dogs, and I've had this conversation with Carrie. Like, Mom always had the worst behaved dogs. I don't know why that was the case. Not Sugar Ray as much, but every other dog was like a bad behaved dog.
I think it's because there were like a lot of times there were like abandoned dogs that she rescued, or because that was Athena. Athena was one that was just in a box with a bunch of them on the side of the highway.
Oh my goodness! When she used to get out, we had to go chase her all over the neighborhood.
Yeah, that was something I was thinking. It would be like a whole neighborhood effort of like a little kid search party going around the neighborhood, like everyone we could get. And we'd all just be chasing around, and Mom would be like, no, she grew up on this street. She knows there's no food out there. Just she'll come back when it gets dark. And we did finally figure out where we could put a food bowl in the garage with it cracked and stand on a chair with like the hockey stick. And as soon as she ran in to get the food, just shut it on her, like, ha, got you. and do that once a week when she got out.
Or she'd get hit by a car multiple times, and then she'd get hit by a car, and she would run all the way back to the house and get back in the fence. Except there was one time we were on vacation, and another Matt B, was watching our dogs, and he left the gate open, and all our dogs ran away. And then, like, my mom saw him, like, shortly thereafter, and he's like, "So I'm probably not getting paid?" And she's like, "No, you're not getting paid.
Yeah.
You lost all our dogs. You don't get paid for feeding our dogs if you lost all our dogs."
Yeah, I watched him for the first couple of days.
Can I get like half pay? But yeah, I remember those. Now I remember coming home and watching you chase Skip the wiener dog around the kitchen, beating it with a Subway bread and yelling, "Eat the bread! Yeah. Eat the bread!" What happened?
Because because I think I must have left it, and wiener dog was really good at getting all of our food, but I must have left a sandwich on the coffee table or something, and he went up and just ate all the insides of it, like all the good parts, and then left the bread. And so then I was beaten with, I'm like, "No, you will finish this." I was like, "We're going to eat all that stuff. I'm going to make you eat this entire thing." It's like, "I'm going to watch you smoke this entire pack." Like, no, eat the whole sandwich.
Didn't you put him in the kennel and like stick pepperoni in front of it just to drive him crazy?
I was taunting him. Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was real pissed because I wasn't even old enough to probably go get more food, and it would just me. Yeah. Back to the torture tactics. Definitely did that.
And he disappeared because Mom sent him to. No, that was Buster. Buster's the one that Mom sent with Joan to go get obedience training, and he jumped out of her car and ran away in the middle of traffic or something. But no, Skip supposedly was carried away by eagles in the neighborhood.
Yeah, that's what she says. Which is possible out there. I've seen YouTube videos of that happen.
Or like coyotes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that too. Or there almost anything out in High Springs out there, especially back then when it wasn't really developed. So
yeah. No,
it could have been trampled by horses for all we know.
Yes. Yep. So we mentioned Aunt Joan. I remember Aunt Joan having a whole farm full of weird animals. What animal and characteristics do you remember about Aunt Joan's house growing up?
Well, she had, I don't think they were weird, but I remember she had April's horse, and then Jeff had a pony. Could not tell you what their names were.
I don't remember either. Yeah. I'm sure there were some weird Native American
I almost called the horse April, but then I was like, no, that was the sister's name. The only one with a weird one, I was thinking Buddy.
No, wait a minute. His sister wasn't April because it was a J name.
Okay, Jamie. So Jamie. So the horse's name was April, I think.
Yeah, because they all had J names: Joan, Jim, Jeff, Jamie, and he had one more daughter who I can't remember her name, but it was another J name. I remember the horse played fetch though. You could throw a rubber ball and it would bring it back to you.
Okay, that's right.
All right, they've been weird. I remember Bud,
who was like a cat.
Yeah, he would climb up trees. He could climb up trees. Yeah,
and it was like a teacup poodle too.
He was a little tiny poodle.
Which actually, I thought that was the first time I think I've seen a poodle. And I assumed that's how big they were. And I went to my friend Matt's, who had another black one that was a full size, and it was huge. And I was freaking out. I'm like, "What did you do to your dog? Like, what do you feed this thing? Like, how does it get so big?" Blew my mind. I didn't realize that Buddy was a mini one.
Yeah, which Buddy was their second poodle. The first one they called him Bud, which was short for Killer Bud. And he died because
I thought it was short for Air Bud.
No, Jim was bathing, was using flea dip on all his hunting dogs, and put Bud in the flea dip, and it killed him.
Mm-hmm. Smaller than the.
Yes. So she had Buddy who would climb up trees, and she had she would have like 7 and 8 dogs at that house. Like I remember,
just kind of wander up and then just
and she'd feed them.
Yeah, it was almost like going to a what are those things that hippies just go live on, and then they're like they just grow food and then like a commune. Yeah, it was like an animal commune.
I remember those. Oh, I remember you and Jeff playing with her fish.
Yeah, like petting them, like people do.
You were trying to pet them, but then you couldn't get them, so you were using a
Grab
shop vac, to
Oh,
suck them up
I don't
into
remember
because
whose
they would.
idea that was. That couldn't have been my idea.
So they would go up to the top because there's those bubbles. Like, ooh, what's? There it goes. There goes the fish. The fish is gone. Yeah, that was
We must have been really young then.
with no supervision.
Yeah.
Not a bit of supervision. Oh my goodness! I remember she had
Come
chickens
back. Where
and
the
goats.
fish go? They ran away.
They ran away. The wind blew them away. The
Yeah,
wind
the
blew them
wind blew 'em
away.
away.
Oh my goodness. I remember she had a bird. It was some kind of cockatiel or parrot or something that
Oh,
sounded like a coffee maker.
no, that I remember. No, I think it was a dove, the white one, and I remember. Yeah, you would wake up in the morning and it would sound like somebody was making coffee, but then like
Yeah.
you'd be in the other room and you'd be like, how? Like it just sounded like a coffee maker.
Yes, it
And
sounded like it sounded like a coffee maker. And I remember I would get up, and I don't remember why, but I always thought Aunt Joan's house was scary when there were no adults awake. And so I'm like, oh, good, she's awake. So I would get up and I would look, and she wouldn't be awake. And so I'd go back
Yeah.
and I'm like, why is she making coffee? How long is she making coffee? And that stupid bird would just go and go and go and go and go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she did also have other. Most birds are annoying. I don't know why people have pet birds, to be honest. Like I remember when there was one of those cockatiels. It was just hopping up mom's driveway, and she's like, "Oh look, what up?" And I kept saying, "I'm like, no, obviously its wings are clipped. It didn't hop its way over here. Someone clearly just dumped it at the cul-de-sac because they didn't want it anymore." And then she was like, "No, no, we'll have it." Went out, bought a cage for it, got food, got all the stuff, and they had it for not very long before they
I don't
realized how
even remember
annoying.
this, so it must have been a very short period of time.
That was, I think, that
It's
I
probably
think it was,
Northridge. It had been
no,
Northridge.
it was in High Springs because it went up that driveway because it was up on the top of the
Jeez.
stairs, and I think it was like when I must have been just started college or something, and that's why I was like, no, these are annoying. Obviously, someone got rid of it because it was annoying. Because how did it get here? It didn't fly over. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would be weird too if it could fly. If you're like mine cage. But yeah, they got rid of it because it was just so annoying, and they wouldn't get it to stop chirping or whatever birds do. I was
Well,
saying, yeah,
if it was Northridge, if it was High Springs, and it was when you were starting college,
you would have
then
been
that
there
is
too.
all. I would have been there too, but I was dating Carrie, so I probably wasn't home very much.
Oh, okay. And it could have been because I was doing some online classes and mom was there too, so it would be annoying both of us while we're sitting there.
I can see that.
Um, but yeah, that also reminded me of that clock we had with the bird noises.
Oh my
And then
goodness! Yes.
and then somehow I think they did it wrong on the wrong 12-hour
did.
period.
Yes, and so it would
And
go
they were too
all through the
lazy to
night.
fix it. But then when the batteries started to die, it just sounded like demons, like or it was like, yeah, it sounded like your house was haunted or something
Because it was. It was.
from all the dead animals.
So
Hi, this podcast is brought to you by me, Logan, and also my brother CJ. But if you would like to plug your business or make one of us read something out loud for whatever reason, head over to patreon.com/wwwtk. Then you can see videos of our podcasts and call me out on the internet about how my hairline is receding. Also, I can afford a better microphone so my voice doesn't sound like crap.
you remembered a story from when we went to after school. You want to share that story?
Oh, yeah, okay. So we're at Terwilliger in Gainesville, Florida, and they had this huge playground called Kid Space. I've seen a couple of them where it's basically a castle made out of wood, and it's just like endless, dangerous obstacles that it almost
Splinter
seemed like
City.
every father in the school just came over and built it.
Which our uncle helped build Kid Space. Grandma used to tell us that.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it was like, well, he also had a building. He had a construction company. So that sounds
No. He did it as part of his community service for his DUI. She never shared that part with us. That was
okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like a fun DUI, I guess.
Building kids.
But that's also exactly what you want. is a bunch of people on court-ordered community service building a playground for kids.
Yes, which had oh my goodness, we get to kids-based stories alone for a whole episode.
It explains all the poisons and stuff in the sand and probably exposed.
Yeah, the wood was treated with arsenic, so if you ate 3 handfuls of dirt, you could get a little sick, and so they had to tear
over
it down.
the course of 6 years, I'm sure I probably got that much in my mouth.
I'm sure. So we're at Kids Base. We're at after school.
Okay, we're at after school program. And apparently, so there was a girl, Rachel, and who is CJ's age, and then her sister, I think it was Stephanie, my age. And apparently, from what the counselor said was, she so they had like the peak, so where it looked like a castle, and then they had bats that just turned those into homes. Which is just normal, and we ignored it. Even though you go hide up there when we're playing hide and seek, but you just look for one that didn't have visible bats
currently in there. Yes.
Currently in there, yeah. And that was normal. We just went along with it because it was Florida. And so apparently, Stephanie had got a hold of like a smaller one or a baby one or something, and just grabbed it. And she walked all the way down from, like, that's the opposite side of the school where the cafeteria was. That's where we all had our backpacks. And even a couple of counselors were like, whoa, what is that? And she's like, oh, it's my pet bat. And they were just like, okay, yeah, that checks out. That makes sense. Yeah, I'm not going to question this at all. You're going to put it in your backpack and zip it up and then just leave it like that? Okay. Go about our business because we're just college students getting extra credit or something like that. It might have even been high school for all in. I don't know.
They were probably a mixture of high school and college kids that were making less than minimum wage, maybe minimum wage.
It could have been for like an internship or just some
could have been
requirement, or just something to look good on your applications.
Yep.
So fast forward, she eventually gets home and then unzips her backpack. This bat freaks out, goes around, scratches her whole family, and then they all had to get rabies shots.
Yeah. Yes,
I think this was even before they like updated them where they were a little bit better. I think it was the ones where you had to do a bunch around your belly button because that's like, Rachel was explaining it like later when she came back, and I was like, that sounds like a nightmare.
And I think then we had to all sit down and then have this big presentation at school about why we should be playing with bats, and we're all looking at each other
we're not allowed to take them home.
Yeah, we're like, who did this? Like, who was stupid enough to take home a bat? It was these people. Oh my goodness, yes, I remember Rachel. She used to act out Lion King.
I was gonna say, I remember that she could do the entire thing from memory.
Yes, and act it out. Had it on Laserdisc. Remember Laserdisc?
Yeah, that's fancy.
I kind of want to get a Laserdisc player just to see what it's like.
Drew had a Laserdisc player and had all 3 Back to the Futures on it. I don't know what other. I think he got it like on eBay where there's like 6 movies or something.
But what's the quality like? Is it DVD quality? Is that what it is?
I mean, probably, or what was it? The HD CD or the movie or whatever.
I need to look that up. I'm making a note. I'm gonna look that up.
You should go get one and bring it out.
So So there were bats. Also, we live in Florida. You mentioned that, and there's a place in Gainesville because the University of Florida.
It's actually across from the Bat House.
Yes.
On UF campus.
So there's this place where several alligators live. It's Lake Alice, and I had a couple college students who were going out there for romantic dates. The guy went and set up this picnic, and he brought the girl later. And when they got there, there was an alligator on their picnic blanket tearing up their food, eating their food. And they're like, I guess we're done. I guess we're not having a picnic. And so, but you had... Well,
it would have been that or raccoons probably. So, I mean...
Yes. So, but you had another experience, or were told of this experience. Another kid.
Yeah, it was all of their... it was Shane and all his friends... like the next day at school, I think it was, or after the weekend. But they go out to Lake Alice, and it's big enough where you could be on the other side of the lake and just still go rent canoes or go swimming or do whatever you want. But this one section where they have a boardwalk goes out, there's this very tiny little island where they just have like 30 gators, probably more, I don't know. They're just basking up on the little tiny beach area. And one of my friends of my age, Austin, that's another guy that we used to do a bunch of shenanigans with. his older brother. I think they were talking about the Gators, and something happened, and his older brother was like, "Oh, I bet you won't jump on one of them Gators." And he's like, "Yeah, I will." And then they're like, "Okay." And so they're talking, and I guess they're walking back, and then they just hear him like yell out, and they turn around, and from what Shane told me was he looks over, and uh, Austin is spread eagle in the air and just flies off of the little boardwalk onto like the smaller gator, and he's grabbing it, and it's like it shakes itself loose and runs over like into the water towards the little island. But then all the other bigger gators that were on the island just start coming towards him, and so he has to like book it through the woods all the way up down the thing, and everybody's just like screaming. They're like, "Ah, everybody get out of here! He pissed them off!" And so running away. And yeah, that was a pretty interesting story. I don't know. I don't even think he like bet him anything.
He's like, you won't do it. Yes, I will.
But he's just the kind of guy you don't challenge to do certain things, I guess.
Or maybe you do for stories like this. I remember us going there once with Dad, and I remember the guy that was there was speaking German. He wasn't speaking any English. They were talking, and he was speaking, I think it was German. And there's this alligator there, and he keeps putting his foot down to try and kick the alligator on the top of the head. Like over and over again. And Dad looks at me and he goes, "Let's get out of here before I have to save this guy." And so I remember we turned around and left. I don't have to save this guy. Let's get out of here. But I also remembered when I was in high school, we were at Blue Springs and we were going to swim across the river to go to Rum Island because there was that rope out there that you could swing out and drop in the river. You know what I'm talking about, Ish?
I'm trying to remember, Blue Springs, was that the one with the platform you jumped off on?
Okay. Yes. And so I remember we were heading that way, and something happened. That's right. We're gonna go because they have that boardwalk that goes all the way out to the bridge or all to the river. And so we get to the end of the boardwalk, and there's all these guys fishing at the end of this boardwalk, which makes sense. That's where you would fish. But I wasn't gonna jump off of it then, where they got
stuck with a hook. Yeah.
So we doubled back. I remember us jumping off the boardwalk and running through the woods, and there's all these signs that say "Careful, alligator breeding ground." I remember thinking, just don't stop running, don't stop running. But we got to the water.
Running, just keep running.
We got to the water, and I'm starting to walk out in the water, and I guess I had stepped on a beaver home or something. But I remember standing on what I thought was solid ground, and then it broke through into this like cave thing, and then it was just a full-on panic swim across the Santa Fe River to get to Rum Island, where they had cut the rope down, and so then we had to swim back and just whatever, go back and swim.
It's funny, we got my buddy Nathan, who actually he went to UF law school, and then he moved up here, and he has a sailboat. And so we'll go sailing. We went Sunday, and it's getting chilly. So that's what we notice when we're in jackets and jeans and stuff, and we're like, oh man! And then like when the wind picks up and it starts to lean, we're like, okay, yeah. Of all days for this boat to flip over, like I don't want to be swimming in this water. It's like 45 degrees or something. But one day we were on like over the summer, we just got on one of the canoes, and they have a couple of islands off the river, and we went over, and there's a guy in a paddleboard. We just kept seeing something splash up. I thought it was like just like a fish or something, and then a guy came over on a paddleboard, and he's like, "Hey, watch out! There's like a mama beaver over there, and she keeps chasing me away. I'm trying to fish, but." So we're like, "Oh, let's go check it out." And so we, because we're on a canoe, we go over there, and she's huge, and she just starts splashing and swimming around us and trying to we're freaking out. We're trying to get away from this beaver because we're like, "Oh, wait, this is way bigger than I thought it was going to be." You're getting chased off by a mama.
It's gonna jump in that canoe, and then y'all gonna. Yeah. What are you gonna do? Jump in the water? Because that's safer. Yeah.
With the paddle, I guess. I don't. I guess it depends on which side, which one of us would have to deal with it first.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. For this first interaction, we're like, "Yeah, let's go mess with it," and then we're like, "Oh yeah, nope, bad idea."
Listen, that's about as redneck as you get, buddy. That's about. I mean, that's
go mess with that beaver over there.
What we're gonna do? Let's go poke it. Let's see what we can do to get it mad.
How mad? Yeah, how bad could she be? I know the beaver from Winnie the Pooh, and it just has a weird whistle lisp.
Say,
show me my guys. That's actually how I learned how to whistle through my teeth. Was watching that, and I tried to mimic the sound.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Well, we're going to go ahead and cut it there. Don't forget to check out our Patreon at www.patreon.com/wwwtk. What's wrong with these kids? Also, go to our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/wwwtk. Post a review there. Post a review on iTunes, Podbean, all those places. The more that you review, the more people that see this and hear this, and we would just love that to have them join in on the conversation.
Yep. And any topic suggestions you have or questions, we can do that. And I think I probably want to do some sort of poll, or do some more of those where we could figure it out and try to see other people's inputs and where they can share their stories.
Yeah,
that'd be great for some sort of interaction kind of thing.
It'd be fun to have just a whole questions episode,
Yeah.
We submit questions and we can go over and talk about them. So if you got questions or anything, send them to us. We'll compile them and we'll go over them. I think Charlie's pet bat got out. I got to go. Hang on.